Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are reviewing Morbius. So let's tuck in because none of us were expecting this film to be good. Lo and behold, it isn't good.
I probably prefer soil science.
That probably sums it up, to be fair, in a sentence. No word of a lie, I served someone at the cinema where I work and they came out of the cinema afterwards and genuinely said, I don't know what all the critics were on about, that film was great. And the only thing going through my mind at that moment was one of Mark Corrigan's iconic quotes.
You're not a bad person, but I'm afraid to say you are a moron.
The only thing I wanted from this film was for it to be better than both Venom films. And I think narrowly it just about manages to achieve that. You know, I hated Venom 2, didn't like Venom 1, and Morbius just ever so slightly tops the first Venom. Still a long way off calling it a good film, but baby steps for Sony because they're very far behind. Now, Morbius's biggest problem is that it feels like a 2-hour film that was hacked to pieces in the editing suite. And I think the editing of this film as a narrative was shambolic. Each scene feels about 2 minutes too short. They are rushing from scene to scene, and the narrative therefore unfolds in a very formulaic, underdeveloped way. We therefore skip past and rush over things that generally need screen time to kind of enable them to be fleshed out and develop naturally. You know, such as central relationships, the fraternal relationship between Morbius and Milo, the romantic relationship, which is hilariously underwritten, and also Michael Morbius's transformation into a more primal being, kind of learning to tackle these powers and kind of balance his Jekyll-Hyde dynamic, which is brushed past in about a 1-minute montage where he can suddenly kind of use all his powers. And I don't mind watching it because I get to watch it for free, but if I'd been a paying customer, you know, paying £10, $10 a ticket, you know, you've wasted your money, essentially. And the post-credit scenes were just laughably bad, you know, they didn't fit in with the character, they felt unnecessarily tacked on, and didn't really feel like they knew what they were trying to do with it. I think there is a better film somewhere in the edit there. Not a good film, but a better film than what we got. If it had been fleshed out a bit more, I think it still would have been equally dull, but you could have invested in some of the characters a bit more. Because I really like Jared Leto as an actor, I think he did a fine job here. My favourite parts of the film were early on, when Michael Morbius, you know, just existed as a disabled scientist, just struggling through life, but still trying to bring joy to other people. I think that they were the most humanising parts of the film, and were too few and far between once the plot takes over. And I did love the kind of fraternal relationship between Matt Smith and Jared Leto, that was setting up to be a really interesting and complex relationship that obviously they then do nothing with. So there are glimpses of a good film. You know, Jared Leto's fine. The action is very hard to see, particularly in the final fight sequence. They've created this aesthetic style where whenever Michael Morbius moves, there's this CGI smoke trail that follows him. And when you've got two characters with that same CGI style fighting, it's just essentially a cloud of smoke that you're watching unfold. So the final fight sequence was really unengaging and just really invisible, essentially. One bit I did really like was when Michael Morbius was on the run, and he sort of takes over this drug lair from these kind of young adults, and he's using his scientific knowledge to kind of explain how there's many bones in the hand and breaking them. I think that was really badass, and it just sort of showed a bit more intuition in terms of his character and sort of not forgetting who he was. So there are instances like that that appear in the film, diluted in your typical formulaic superhero narrative. Ultimately, the film's two biggest flaws are a weak script and bad editing. The actors do the best they can with what little material they get given, the soundtrack is okay, the foundations of a complex story and good characters are there, just never expanded on, and characters just fulfill archetypal roles like the underwritten love interest, the good-hearted mentor. And I know there's a lot of fans calling for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man to be brought in to fight Venom and Morbius and all these characters. Why? I'm sorry, just why? Andrew Garfield is way too good to be kind of associated with this level of filmmaking. So I'm very nervous about this franchise going forward. Venom 1 and 2 were red flags, Morbius doesn't break the mould. Craven I'm not going to get my hopes up for. I'll watch what they make, but there's no expectation or hype for me expecting it to be good. And I suppose that means they can only prove me wrong, which will be good in the future. Do let me know what you guys thought. I'm sure there's a few people out there who would argue that Morbius is a good film, in which case comment below and we'll start a digital war. But thank you for watching and we'll see you next time.